What is up, everybody? We are back for another week in Kingdom. And we have an amazing guest today. I'm sure if you're watching on YouTube, you probably already somewhat know who's in the room. She is a near and dear friend of mine. We have been friends for years. She is a great example of what a friend should look like. And she tends to wear black. She is an international artist, even though she's not wearing black today, though.
What does she paint?
She paints elephants.
She paints elephants? Fantastic.
I feel like that's something.
Okay.
What else can you tell us about her?
She is perhaps one of the most... I don't know if I can say that. I'm not going to say that on a podcast. Good gracious.
I'm scared.
What I love about this human is the fact that the spirit of religion does not dwell in them.
Straight up. And I've also heard rumors that she looks like Wednesday Addams.
I don't know what Wednesday Addams is, but I'm going to say no.
We disagree.
Our near and dear friend, Dani Roberts, is in the house today.
Yay.
How you doing, Dan?
Good. It's good to be with you guys. Thanks for having me.
So what does it take to paint elephants?
That's a really great question. I have absolutely zero artistic ability when it comes to drawing or painting, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask.
So how are you an international artist?
Well, apparently, I sing songs that are international now. Yep, about clothing of a particular color.
A yellow sweater.
Yes, my song Yellow Sweater is apparently famous in Italy.
That's amazing.
It's great.
Tell me, do you have to wear lots of yellow sweaters now?
No, I do own one, but I actually don't look good in the color yellow, so I try and avoid it as much as possible. But I have one yellow sweater, and that was just for a photo shoot.
The song Yellow Sweater is about you wearing a guy's yellow sweater, though, right? Or he wearing your yellow sweater. Okay, so you don't actually have to own the yellow sweater, technically.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we relieve you of that
sense.
responsibility.
Communal yellow sweater, you know.
Yeah.
You should go, when this podcast is done, or right now, you can pause it and listen to Yellow Sweater in Italian.
Is it translated into Italian?
I mean, not that I know of. I don't think so. I can't speak Italian, so I definitely can't sing Italian. So I haven't translated it, but highly doubt it has.
Speaking of music, have you guys heard Justin Bieber's new album?
Ben, have you heard Justin Bieber's new album?
I know there is a new album, and I'm pretty sure my wife has played some songs for me, but I don't know if I've actually heard the album.
Did you know that there are 2 new albums?
I know that there's Justice and Freedom.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
That's impressive.
But I
That's
mean,
good.
fortunately, it's Justice and Freedom. Like, it's not hard to remember, you know?
This is true. Danny, were you a believer?
Yes, definitely.
Do you know I refused to follow Justin Bieber on Instagram?
Why?
I made that decision when I was like 16, and I've just decided I'm not
You
going
had
to go back
Instagram at 16.
I don't know how old I was when I had social media.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, I thought it was really interesting that, this guy who has massive influence is actually really trying to change the world.
I'm pretty excited, I must admit. So Benjamin, at the age of like 13, hated anything that everyone else thought was amazing. So Justin Bieber was thrown into the mix with that. And I used to say awful things about him. And then I went and I had someone say, I pray for Justin Bieber every day. And it felt a bit like my grandmother who used to pray for bold and the beautiful characters. That's what I thought this person was doing. But actually, Justin Bieber is not a character. He was a real human. And he's actually encountered Jesus, and it's amazing to see what God... So I'm actually really excited.
Yeah, it's amazing. And he speaks about it so openly all the time, and his Instagram stories are really inspiring, I think. I mean, how many people watch Justin Bieber's Instagram stories every day? So the amount of people that probably don't know about Jesus, but know about Justin Bieber... are getting to encounter Jesus through Justin Bieber's Instagram stories. That's pretty cool.
I also really love, this is youth pastor disclaimer right now. Nobody swear. I love the fact that he swears and then praises Jesus. I just feel like there's not a religious bone in his body.
Great.
And I think there's something awesome about that. I'm not saying go and swear, but I just think that he's just being authentic in who he is and his relationship with Jesus.
Yeah, for sure. It's great.
It's really
It's
interesting.
good to see.
So the question we want to ask you guys today is, what band or group were you a fangirl or fanboy of? I know Danny was a bit of a fan of Westlife.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yep. I went to a Westlife concert that was in PE when I was 7, and I cried through the whole thing because I was so excited. And I definitely thought I was going to marry the one guy, but I'm pretty sure he's like 35 years older than me, so didn't work out, but it's fine.
I refused to fan over anything when I was younger. It's literally something I had to learn how to do. I just decided that I would never do anything like that. So if everyone did something, I would refuse to do it. Like at one point, shorts that came over your knee were really in, and I refused to wear them because I was like,
that's like dangerous.
super dangerous. So I can't think of one thing. When I like later in my teen years got really into cycling, I definitely started like fanboying over some cyclists.
Yeah.
So like I had heroes like Chris Froome and Kevin Evans, and none of you guys know who they are, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. The two bands I was like quite a big fan of. The first one was U2, because I mean,
Come on.
what a banger of a band.
You were a fan of us.
It's okay, Ben. It's okay, bro. We'll pray for you afterwards. And the second band I was like a really big fan over was 288. Like they
Hey.
were a local Christian band that I rocked with quite hard.
Isn't the lead singer for 288 in the room right now?
I think so.
Wow.
So like to be close in his presence, man, that's something.
What an honor.
Must be like challenging for you to walk every day like that.
Sure, bro. It's wild.
It's true. You should also jump onto YouTube and YouTube 288 after this podcast. I don't even know if their stuff's on YouTube.
Just do it anyways.
They're that old.
You're roasting. But yeah, we just want to ask that question again. What band or group were you a fanboy or fangirl over? So today's topic is we're back in Kingdom, and because I have one of my near and dear friends, that's not Ben, in the house, I thought it would be a great time to talk about friendships and what godly friendships look like. Because making friends can be like quite a stressful journey and quite a stressful process to go through. And sometimes it can also be quite painful to go through because like one moment you're friends with someone and then the next moment like you're strangers to this person and like you've never met ever before. And then you're also meeting like random people that eventually just become your best friends just because they hang around you quite a lot. And so it can be quite like an interesting time, especially with teenagers. Like that idea of forming friendships is quite like an interesting journey as well. And I know it's something that people struggle with, and some people find it naturally easier to do. But we want to make sure that in this age of social media, because like you can be friends with a random person that you've never met in your life and be having a conversation with them, and the next day you're best friends with them, or you can go onto these multiple platforms where you're getting the influence like Justin Bieber, but you never have that relationship with them ever. And that can create like that space in our lives that creates a gap. So we actually want to talk about what godly friendships look like in our lives. And so Dani, I want to ask you that question is, what do godly friendships do for our lives?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, first of all, what is a godly friendship? It's probably a good question to answer.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And I think for me personally, it looks different for lots of people. But for me, I try and make friends with people that I see something in them that challenges me or that I want to be like. Not out of a jealousy or an envy thing, but something in you and in you that inspires me, that calls me higher. And I think it's such a gift when you can have a relationship with someone, especially for people like us that are leaders in the church and that have grown up in the church, and to have friends that come alongside us, even if they didn't grow up or have the same background that we do, but we share that same love for Jesus and the same passion for his kingdom. It's such a beautiful thing to be able to build on that in a friendship with someone. And what do godly friendships do for our lives? I think they do for your lives whatever you allow them to do, to be honest. But I would hope that you have godly friendships and friends that challenge you, that call you higher when you're maybe not calling yourself high. People that come alongside you, that champion you, that love you, irrespective of what you've done or where you've been or who you are.
Yeah.
And yeah, just people that you get to do life with, you know.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, social media has so skewed our perception and our definition of what friendship is. Because let me tell you, those few hundred followers that you have, maybe more, that you've never spoken to, they're not your friends. And so that's not what a friendship is. They might say on Facebook or on Instagram that they're on your friends list, but that's not what a friendship is. So
I feel like I want to ask the question of like, again, like what is a friend? Because I hear so many stories now of people that have formed friendships over social media. And honestly, when I grew up, I wasn't allowed Mixit, and that was the biggest form of social media. So
Some people aren't going to know what Mixit are.
Mixit was like the WhatsApp, pre-WhatsApp. There wasn't like cell phone, data, internet didn't even exist.
It was like Mixit, BBM, WhatsApp.
Yeah. But people would form friendships. Like there's this whole idea of people forming friendships with someone you've never met before that doesn't exist in my like head. So when I hear people come to me say, hey, like I like this guy, but they've never met. They've just been chatting over like TikTok DMs or whatever. I'm like, I don't believe that's a real friendship, but I think I need to shift my thinking and saying people actually form friendships over those platforms now.
yeah.
But like, what is the measure of a friendship? How do I know when this person's actually a friend and it's not just something completely fake?
Yeah. I mean, that's such a great question. And I'm kind of with you. I also struggle with the over the internet connection. But then again, I mean, I know people that have met online and are married with families now. So I'm like, how do you kind of say that's not real, you know? But I suppose, I don't know, I think a friend is someone that you have like a mutual affection for each other, you know, and it has to work two ways. That whole like it takes two to tango thing. It takes two people to have and to cultivate a good friendship, and so there has to be that mutual feeling of love and trust and understanding of one another for sure.
And there has to be a level of commitment as well.
Oh yeah.
I think it's so like if you've got some like people filling your inbox, it can feed you and make you feel important. But if there's no like mutual commitment, it's not a friendship. It's a drug.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and I loved what you said about someone who will call you to a higher standard, because in Proverbs 27 verse 17 it says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And I think that's symbolic of what godly friendships look like for me in my life, is that people that actually iron you out. And because in that process, like they're not hardening your heart or anything like that, they're like making you stronger
Refining
through that.
you.
Yeah.
Jesus said, greater love has no one than a man who's willing to lay down his life for his friend. And then Jesus laid down his life for all of us.
Yeah.
And then we see that in scripture, the famous like Bible friendship is Jonathan and David.
Ah, what a beautiful story.
And so David was anointed king, but Jonathan was the son of Saul and should have inherited the throne. But Jonathan loved David like a brother.
Yeah.
And then said to David, like, you're going to become king one day. I know God's anointed you. And then loved him and supported him and championed him into that role. So he laid down his inheritance and his like birthright to see David step into what God had called him to do. And so I think there's an aspect of friendship like that, like the willingness to lay down your life for someone. And I don't know how you do that over DMs. But if someone you feel like they're willing to lay down a part of their life for you over DMs, then that's great. You can call that a friendship. And then the other one is Ruth and Naomi. And that's a beautiful story. You should go read the book of Ruth. It's super short. But basically, Ruth is from another country. She's not Jewish. She marries a Jewish guy. She goes and lives with them. And then that guy dies. And she says to her mother-in-law, like, I'm choosing to stay with you. Your people will be my people. And Ruth there's just this thing of commitment. And she lays down the opportunity to get remarried or all these other things to stay with her mother-in-law and really served her. And then God used that beautifully. And now Ruth is in the bloodline of Jesus, you know? So there's this thing about like sacrifice and laying down your life and committing to someone even when it's hard that I think counts as friendship. And so friends that like commit through conflict are good friends.
Yeah.
And I just want to highlight that point is godly friendships require commitment. like friendships are gonna come at a cost. Like I'm not just talking about like these shallow friendships. Like I'm talking about like deep seated, committed, loyal friendships. Like that comes at a cost. Like you said, Jesus literally laid down his life for all of us as his friends, because he loved us that much, and he committed to that cause. And so like for you guys, what does it look like to have committed relationships and friendships?
Yeah, do you want to answer that, Ben?
You should go first.
I should go first. I think I moved schools quite a lot when I was young, and did lots of different sport, and so I kind of had friends from a lot of different areas of my life, and I'm really, really blessed to still have a lot of those friends that I'm really, really close with. I would say probably I could list 5 of my closest friends are from completely different walks of my life. But yeah, I think the thing that you learn, especially as you get older and as you mature, is that friendships require effort.
Yeah.
That they're not just going to cultivate and get deeper and stronger by themselves, that you actually have to put in effort. And like you said, it does come at a cost sometimes. And I'm introverted, so I think that sometimes it's more like convenient to maybe not have friends, but then your life would suck. So, but I mean, I'm so thankful for the relationships that I do have, and like something that's been really, really cool is that a lot of me and my friends have moved to different places and come back and transitioned into so many different spheres and parts of our lives, but because of that maintenance of effort and love and communication, that's a very big one, we still are so close. And even one of my best friends, we kind of keep missing each other. I will move, and then she'll move to PE, and then I move back, and she moves out of PE. And it's kind of been that way for the last 6 years, but we just make a constant effort with each other to communicate and to like hear each other's hearts, where we're at, and support one another. And we've stayed best friends since I was 10. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think for me, there's something about forming friendships between the ages of like 13 and 18 that's really complicated, because you're changing so much.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've seen this so often, that people get involved in a friendship group because it feels like it's the in group or the in crowd or something like that, and then those go pear-shaped because someone then is no longer part of the in crowd, or you get kicked out, or then now there's a new in crowd. But the friendships that lasted through those confusing years in my life were the people that were always a little bit weird, like the outcasts. Maybe this is just me personally, maybe other people didn't, but I just like I went to one of my childhood friends' weddings recently now, and he was just always weird, man. He spoke super slowly, so everyone get frustrated with him, and he was like really artistic and stuff like that. But he was one of my childhood good friends because our friendship was built on something real, not built on like, oh, we think we should be together because we're both cool. And so I think for me, there's this aspect of like, be okay with your friendships changing a lot in your teenage years.
Yeah.
Number one, because they're going to change. But then 2, like, choose people wisely.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That's really good advice.
And I think that's highlighted in Proverbs 18 verse 24. One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And I think that's such a beautiful image, because I mean that can be related to Jesus. Like he comes in so close as a friend, like no matter what our circles look like. But also when we find those real authentic friends, like those people stick closer than anybody. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world, it doesn't matter what season you are in your life, but actually they come really close when you need them, and even when you don't need them, like when you want them around, like they come really close.
Yeah. There's another scripture that you're talking about, Proverbs, and I'm so bad at quoting scripture, but I know it's somewhere in Proverbs.
In the book of Proverbs.
In the book of Proverbs, hopefully. It says that walk with the wise and become wise. And it's really true that you become like the people that you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
So pick the people that you're going to spend the most time with wisely, because whether it's fully conscious or completely subconsciously, you're going to start behaving like them. And I've seen that throughout my life, where I've spent a lot of time with certain people, and then we'd even like start dressing the same, not intentionally, or start speaking the same, but it's just because we spend so much time together that I started behaving like them. And so when you look at your friendship group, who are the people that you want to become like, or the people that you want to be like right now? You know.
That's so good. Do you want to look like the people you're hanging out with?
Yeah.
And not just like, do you want to look like them, how they look externally, like their hair or are they beautiful or they whatever, but like
Their hearts.
their hearts, their character,
Yeah.
the way they talk to their parents, the way they interact with their siblings. Like the best piece of marriage advice is marry someone, marry a guy who treats his mother well, because that's how he'll end up treating you. And I'm like, look at your friends, like are the way they treating other people,
Sure.
how you want to treat other people.
Yeah.
And the way they treat people who used to be their friends, like one day when you're not their friend, is that how they're going to treat you?
Yeah, there's a quote that I really love that says, one of the teachers from Bethel says, "Show me your friends and I'll show you your future."
Sure.
Boom.
It's a good one.
So I feel like when we talk about friendships, it's so easy to have like a poverty mentality around like, I don't have friends, or these friends aren't, like my friends aren't good, or I've lost friends in my life. And there's a part of me that like friendships are really hard work and they're super important. That's what this whole episode's about.
Yeah.
But there's another part of me like, your friends aren't Jesus, and your friends will fail you.
Yeah.
So what happens? So one, your friends will fail you. Like, they don't ever put them on a pedestal and like the God spot in your life. But then what do you do when your friends do fail you? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it comes back to what type of friend is that person to you? Is this a person that you can see is going to stay in your life for a really long time? Or I like to say different seasons of your life, if you're in different places, is it a relationship or is it a locationship?
Sure.
Wow.
Locationship.
Which has a bad connotation here, but that's not what I mean. I mean, is the relationship only in existence because of the place that you're in your life, or is it there because it's actually going to be a relationship that's a part of your life for the rest of your life?
That's really good.
And so I would first evaluate that. Is this a friendship that's going to be a part of my life for the rest of my life? Is this someone that, irrespective of what's happening right now and what the conflicting situation might be, is this someone that God has put in my life to be here for good? Or is this person just a part of my season? Is this person maybe a lesson that I had to learn? And so I would start there, evaluate that before you even make any more decisions. Because if it's someone that you know is meant to be in your life for the long haul, then you fight for that friendship.
So talk to us about dealing with that conflict then. Like, how do you deal with conflict in friendship?
I think conflict has such a bad reputation.
Yeah.
And look, I don't like conflict, but I see the value in it. And I think that part of doing relationships well is being able to do conflict well.
It's good.
And I think that the goal of conflict, if you have in mind that the goal of the conflicting situation you have is to protect relationship and not to destroy it, then I think you're going to come out the other side, even if it might feel uncomfortable or difficult in the time. But I think that if you can communicate openly and honestly about how you're feeling without blaming and shaming the other person and navigate your way through, I think it's actually something that can strengthen a relationship if you navigate it well.
So I've got like an example in my mind. So Jared keeps stealing my pizza.
That's very rude.
And he actually doesn't think he's stealing my pizza because I once offered him pizza and he assumed that it was an open invitation to my pizza. I don't eat pizza every day, but in case you were wondering. But every day Jared takes a piece of my pizza. And so I'm beginning to hate Jared now.
Yeah.
And then one day I just lash out and I attack him. I'm like, you're a pizza stealer. You steal pizza and I hate you. And I break friendship. That's not good conflict.
No.
But good conflict is having the courage to go to Jared and say, hey, Jared, I feel taken really advantage of every time you eat my pizza.
Exactly.
And if I don't tell him that, the resentment's going to build in my heart to a point that I hate him. But my goal is to love him and not hate him. So I use conflict to communicate that to him so that we can grow closer.
Yeah, absolutely. And the problem with that situation, if it did happen that way, Jared is probably completely oblivious that you're so cross with him. And the issue that happens there, if he irritated you doing that one thing, since he took that second piece of pizza, you've probably been building a case against him of all the other things that he's done that have irritated you. And so when you lash out, it's like a boatload of things that have driven you nuts. Where if you had just communicated the second time he picked up your piece of pizza and gone, hey, I actually just offered it to you the first time. It makes me feel like you're taking advantage of me when you take my food. Then all those other things would have probably not ever existed. So communication is so important.
And that's a really key moment, because the moment he picks up my second piece of pizza, I have an opportunity to say in my heart, well, kind and loving in this moment, I might think it looks like just letting him take my pizza, but actually I know deep down that if I don't communicate to him and I let this irritation grow, that it's going to end up breaking our friendship. So the most kind and most loving thing I can actually do is confront that in the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I once had a friend who helped me quite a lot with this, because conflict was something I used to struggle with. Like, I hated conflict, and so I'd avoid it at all costs. Until the point, like, this friend came to me and said, this is not healthy for you. Like, when you're fighting someone, you're not fighting the person. Like, you're not fighting with their heart. You're actually fighting with their actions, and you're fighting with the situation itself. And for me, that was like mind-blowing, because like the minute I thought I was like fighting with someone, I thought, no, this is like the end of friendship. Like, it's never going to happen again. We're not going to be able to restore things. But actually, when I realized, like, the moment you actually calling out their action and not actually the character of their person, that's what shifted it for me.
Yeah. I think also believing the best about the people that you're friends with, not assuming that their intentions are bad or malicious, but like, if I think of my close friends, I know that even if you did something that frustrated me, you would never do it to intentionally hurt me. You're probably completely unaware of what you're doing and how it's affecting me. But then it's my responsibility to come to you and communicate that your actions are impacting me in a certain way.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And so we want to ask you guys that question. When it comes to conflict, what ways have you guys found it to be helpful in talking to a person when you have conflict? Yeah. Guys, do you know what time it is?
What time is
What?
it?
It's the big question segment. And this week's big question is, how do I support my friend if they don't believe in Jesus? How do I bring them to Christ without making them feel uncomfortable?
Sure. Do you want to go first, Dan?
It's a really good question. Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind is just love them. That's what Jesus did.
Yeah.
And the best thing you can do is demonstrate Jesus to them by loving them, irrespective of their behavior or their choices. But just, if you look in the Bible, Jesus hung out with all kinds of people that did all kinds of interesting things.
Yeah.
And so, but he still chose to spend time with them and to love them. And I just think of that scripture that says that it's his kindness that leads you to repentance, that if you just demonstrate the heart of the Father and Jesus's heart to connect with people and love them and be kind to them, that's the thing that's ultimately going to show them, oh, like this thing is a good idea. Like Jesus and God, I should go that way, you know?
Yeah. Jesus never met with people with the goal of getting them to follow him or to save them, like in terms of into eternity. He met with them with the goal of loving them.
Yeah.
And we see their response to that is always to fall in love with him or follow him. And then some of them rejected him. So you just need to be prepared, one, for rejection, and then actually to just like love them. Like you said, Dan, it's really, really good.
Yeah.
And I just want to like hop on saying that like you do need to have boundaries in any friendship in your life, but especially if you've got someone that's living radically different to you. You can't just like completely lay yourself down and let them live in your bedroom with you. Like you need to have boundaries that you can protect the relationship and make sure it can last. And just going back to our pizza example, if Jared kept stealing my pizza after I said to him, don't take my pizza, my boundary would have to be, sorry, I'm not going to eat pizza in front of Jared, and I'm not going to eat lunch with him. And so Jared loses out on that, because that means I can keep being friends with him and I can still eat my lunch.
Yeah. And something that's important about when you set boundaries is to maybe not communicate with the person that you have put a boundary up against them and that they can't come closer than this. But in your head and in your heart, if I can think of an example with my own life, when I was in university, I had a group of friends that drank quite a lot, and I kind of wasn't doing what they were doing at the time, but I still really loved them and still really wanted to spend time with them. And so I had to figure out, okay, what kind of environment and connection situation can I create for us as a friendship group that doesn't necessarily involve us needing to drink or having alcohol in the picture.
Yeah.
And so I didn't necessarily straight out tell them, this is what I'm doing, no alcohol, blah, blah, blah. But I knew that if I did this, I'd put a boundary in place that in my head was protecting and actually cultivating our friendship in a really safe environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even teaching them that they can have fun in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah. Guys, this has been amazing. I always love having conversations with you. Dani, it's always a pleasure having you on as a friend. And Ben, just one of my favorites always.
I know.
But yeah, guys, we hope this has been helpful for you today, and we hope it's matured you, that it's grown you, and that it's challenged you. And we will see you very soon.
See you soon.